Greetings and salutations, everyone, viewers and all. Right, I know that's Victor Tanzig's reference, but anyway, I am Sir Topham Hatt, the controller of the island of Sodor, the Northwestern Railway. Well, it's Halloween again, and I just want to wish the mookiest of all mooks, Nicholas Montagnino, and of course the one and only Mika Michelena, on the amazing special occasions, their birthdays. Don't worry, the creator of this channel will have their own season in the series at some point. Hopefully next year. Who knows? Maybe we will continue to roast the mookiest of all mooks. I should say, the creator of this series has big plans for Nicholas. Big plans indeed. Anyways, that being said, we will resume our regularly scheduled programming.
It was a dark, blustery evening on the island of Sodor. The wind howled into the night, the cool air crisp, but rather unsettling. Sir Topham Hatt made a decision. I'm afraid I'm going to have to close the railway this evening. The weather is too dangerous to run the mail train and the flying kipper at this hour. All of you will remain here until the signal changes to green. As the engines waited to go back to their sheds, Thomas had an idea.
One of us should tell a story to pass the time.
The other engines agreed with Thomas. James volunteered to tell the story, and with a sly grin on his face, he began to tell his story.
A long time ago, there was a brave blue engine who was always eager to help until one night, everything changed.
Blue engine? There was a coaster was left behind at the end of the tracks. Would you be able to go and collect it for me?
Of course.
And the blue engine made his way into the night. By the time he reached the end of the tracks, the fog rolled in. It was so thick, the blue engine could not see a thing.
I guess I'll have to wait till morning. It's not like the coach will just get back to the yard on its own.
And the blue engine settled into the old disused shed for the night. But later that night, the engine could hear a noise coming from beneath the shed.
What's that sound? Who's there?
There was no reply, but then he could hear a loud screeching sound, followed by ghostly eyes peering behind the shed. Then two ghostly hands came out from forwards. The engine was terrified.
I'm getting out of here.
And the engine raced out of the shed, with the ghostly hands chasing after him through the fog.
Then what happened?
That is where the story ends. No one ever heard from the little blue engine, nor its crew, ever again.
What about the monster and what did it look like?
Don't be silly, little Percy. It's just a story.
Says the one who is afraid of butterflies.
Says the engine who was afraid of garden gnomes.
But the signal changed at that moment, and everyone made it back to the sheds. Percy was still nervous from the story.
What if the story is true? What if there's actually an engine-eating monster out there right now?
Stop being a scaredy engine, Percy. There's no such things as engine-eating monsters.
Later that night, when all the engines were resting in their engine berths, Percy and the other engines was awoken to a terrible noise coming from Percy's shed berth.
Gordon Henry Thomas, save me, there's a monster under my shed.
But James appeared from beside the sheds. He was rattling scrap metal inside trucks that were to be taken to the scrapyard in the morning. Percy felt embarrassed. Henry noticed this.
Sometimes good imagination can bring bad thoughts, Percy.
Late that night, Thomas awoke to a loud scratching sound.
Stop it, James.
But James was sound asleep. Thomas felt concerned.
Maybe I do have a monster under my shed.
And Thomas stayed up all night just to be safe, while the other engines were sleeping peacefully in their berths. The next day at Brandon Docks, Thomas was awfully tired. When he met Percy, he asked if he heard any strange sounds coming from his shed during the night.
Not after James pulled his silly prank. I didn't hear a thing, Thomas.
Now Thomas felt very silly for staying up all night. By midday, Thomas was very sleepy and was far behind schedule. Henry pulled beside the tank engine.
What's the matter, Thomas? Looks like you need some fresh coal.
No, Henry, just a little tired.
But secretly, Thomas did not want to tell Henry about being up all night because he was too frightened to sleep. At that moment, James sped past with a passenger train.
What's the matter, Thomas? Monster kept you up at night?
And James disappeared into the distance, laughing loudly at his own remark. By the end of the day, Thomas barely had enough steam to make it back to the yard. The other engines, meanwhile, were telling stories again, but Thomas headed straight to his shed. Sometime that night, Thomas was awoken by a strange creaking sound. Then it stopped, and then it started again.
Who is there?
The noise came again.
Go away, you monster! Get out of my shed!
At that moment, the noises seemed to stop. Thomas thought he'd won, but he didn't. At that moment, he could hear thumping sounds coming from the shed. The noises were getting louder and closer to Thomas's shed berth.
Hopefully the other engines will hear the sounds.
But they didn't even move a wheel turn. Then Thomas jumped to see the monster standing outside his berth.
Gordon, help!
But Gordon never heard Thomas, but the monster did. Thomas's shed doors began to rattle and bang on their hinges.
It's trying to get in!
Then the banging stopped. Suddenly, Thomas could see two glowing eyes peering in front of Thomas. He was too frightened to move, and he closed his eyes and screamed.
Percy, Gordon, Henry, James, save me from the monster!
Thomas's driver, who was awakened by his engine's scream, shut the light on. Gordon and most of the engines were awakened by Thomas's scream, laughed, and laughed.
Open your eyes, little Thomas.
Gordon, are you out of your mind? There's a monster outside my shed.
Not anymore. It's inside your shade.
Thomas opened one eye to see in front of him was a hedgehog. All the engines laughed. Even Thomas had to laugh as well.
All this time I was afraid of a hedgehog?
Percy has a good imagination, Thomas, but I think yours is even better.
You're right, Gordon.
That
It's
hedgehog must have
the
mistaken
only
the
thing
shed
in
for
the
its home.
world
I'll
that
make
could turn
arrangements.
A hedgehog into a scary monster.
The hedgehog perched on Thomas's side tanks and slept inside Thomas's shed berth. So Thomas's driver phoned Sir Topham Hatt about the ordeal, who agreed to have the hedgehog in a sanctuary so it would not be harmed. Thomas took the hedgehog to the sanctuary. After saying their goodbyes, Thomas made his way with Annie and Clarabelle back to the yards. But that evening, Thomas was welcomed with a surprise guest.
Hello, Thomas.
Lady, I don't know what to say.
I heard about James's story. Well, it's true.
I am real Thomas. Yes, you may have many questions to ask me, but all you need to know is this: I am alive thanks to Lady. So are my crew. The monster, which was an actual ghost, was destroyed thanks to Lady's magic, and the coach, well, it was empty thankfully, so a shunting diesel took the coach after I ran away.
Now, this won't be easy, but I have a funny idea.
Ah! Thomas, stop causing that noise! Wait, it's not from Thomas or any of the other engines.
Boo!
Ah!
I don't know what to say.
Call me Giles.
Well, Galeys. I guess... Well, gollies. I guess something did go bump in the night.
Everyone had to laugh, including Percy, who laughed the loudest of them all.